So we have an upcoming Contra game that's supposed to be coming out sometime this year, Contra Operation Galuga, which I believe it was announced sometime in early December. We get to see, gameplay trailer and everything else. And quite honestly, I'm surprised that Konami is putting out another Contra game, especially after the latest Contra game that we got back in 2019 flopped really hard. A lot of people criticized it. It was a commercial failure. I'm talking about Contra Rogue Corps. And I feel like the problem with that game is that it tried so hard to be modern, and Konami decided to take a 3D approach with that game. And even though like the trailer and the hype for the game was cool and it looked very interesting, it let a lot of people down. And and honestly, like for the most part, I feel like Contra Rogue Corps, if it had been released in a different year than 2019, it probably could have stood out more. But but I don't know. The Contra series, for the most part, has been dead for quite some time because prior to that, the main Contra game that we got was Hard Corps Uprising from 2011, which is actually a pretty solid game. A very tough video game, but it was pretty solid nonetheless. And like in the 90s, I feel like that's the last time Contra was really like popular on somewhat of a mainstream level, especially with the likes of Contra 3 Alien Wars and Contra Hard Corps. It feels like after those two games, like the series kind of just took a nosedive in terms of popularity, and understandably so, because you look at Konami and the games they've been putting out since the 90s, and you look at their franchises, like the top franchises that became popular within the past like 30 years or so was Castlevania and the Metal Gear series. And the thing is, I mean, a lot of people feel like the Metal Gear series is, for the most part, is over, and Konami's just remaking older games because we're supposed to be getting a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 sometime in the future. And I don't know what's happening with Castlevania. I mean, we got a Castlevania animated series on Netflix, but as far as the video game franchise is concerned, you haven't really seen much of Castlevania during the teens decade. And the games that they did come out with in the teens decade flopped for the most part, and nobody really cared about it. So I honestly respect the fact that Konami is. Putting out another Contra game, even though a lot of people are probably not going to care too much about this upcoming game, but at the same time they're going for nostalgia. They're trying to bring back some of their lapsed fan base over the years. And a 3D reimaging of an 80s classic is something that's pretty cool. Probably should have been done like at least a decade ago, but it is what it is. And now is better than never. So I think it's something that is going to appeal to a niche audience of gamers for the most part. And I'm hoping that Konami at some point gives more game. And as far as like the game itself is concerned, I hope we get an official release date for this game, and hope we find out what platforms it's going to be featured on, because um, I can see this standing out on like the Switch console and on like Steam and all that. I know for a fact that this upcoming Contra game would get overshadowed on the PS5 or the Xbox Series X or what have you, because it's not a first party game, or it's not a video game that falls under a specific genre, whether it be action adventure or RPG. It's basically a arcade platform like shooter type of game that's 2D, and for the most part, 2D titles are not as popular as they used to be, unless like they're fighting games or something like that. And even then, they still get overshadowed in terms of popularity in comparison to a lot of other genres that are in 3D, like the ones I just mentioned with action adventure and RPG. But we're just gonna have to wait and see, you know, when this game is going to come out, how well it does, and whether or not Konami has any more plans on remaking other classic 2D installments of the Contra series anytime in the near future.